This book on page 5. Page 5 says, when a baby grows up to be transgender, it means that the grown-up who said that they were a boy or a girl made a mistake. And this is what we're seeing in the state of California, is this continual, this aggressive attack on the family and this desire to undermine the authority of parents. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Our Watch. I am Tim Thompson, and we are in a part 2 of a quick little series in talking about this new book in the state of California, Call Me Max. It's making its way around classrooms. It has affected many families, one in particular, the family of a man named Steve Schneider. He is here with us today to talk more about this book. Steve, thank you for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me back.
Yeah, we're talking about this book on page 5. Page 5 says, when a baby grows up to be transgender, it means that the grown-up who said that they were a boy or a girl made a mistake. And this is what we're seeing in the state of California, is this continual, this aggressive attack on the family and this desire to undermine the authority of parents, saying that your parents are the ones that made a mistake. They didn't know you were a boy if you're a girl, or they didn't know you're a girl if you're a boy, or wherever in between. And your daughter picked up on that bottom line of page 5, didn't she?
Yeah, she pointed that out when we talked that first night. She brought that specific page up, and when I got a copy of that book, I had to look at it myself to see if she was embellishing, but she nailed it. She knew we didn't make a mistake, but she knew there was something wrong by the writing of the whole thing. And even looking back, we have discussions every once in a while. And I'm glad that my daughter's able to see through this, but I just can't seem to think, I think to myself often that there's other kids out there that will read right into this and can be pushed in a whole nother direction.
Right. For people who are just joining us, we've had you on for a previous show talking about what happened to your family. I'll just break it down really quick. This book was introduced. You became aware of it. There was a lot of pressure on your daughter in particular to shave her head and act like she's not a girl. You guys went to talk to the principal. She, like a coward that she is, hid in her office, didn't want to be held accountable for anything. So then you went to the school board. They didn't give a rip what you had to say. They don't want to be held accountable, and they clearly have an agenda for your child and all the children at that school. They don't want to do anything about it. So then you got accused of a crime you didn't commit. The sheriff's department came after you, and you made it real clear that you don't blame the sheriff's department, but we know where the blame is. We know what's going on. It's a spiritual battle for the soul of our children, and you found yourself wrapped right up into this battle. So we're grateful that you're here with us to talk about it. We want our audience to know what they can do about it. It's not enough to shed light. Ephesians chapter 5, verse 11 says to shed light on these things, to expose what's happening. We expose it, but then we can't just expose it and go, well, that's terrible. We need to do something about it. And I want to talk to you about your position and kind of what you're doing. What can we do? When we look at the best way to change things in our school district, what would you say our audience should do?
Speaking to the school district is, you're falling on deaf ears. They're not gonna do anything. For them to take your concerns and actually respond in a meaningful way, you're good luck. The real answer is pulling your kids out of school, homeschooling them. That is the best answer. But if you're compelled to stay there, you really got to start asking questions. You got to go to the school board meetings just to listen to see what the other parents are bringing in or praising the districts for. You have to get on the website and look at their the comprehensive sexual education format that they're using and read through it carefully. My district has it up on the website, and it's a 52-page or 58-page slide where it just shows, one bad to the next, the things that they're using to sexualize our children. And they laid it out right there on the district, though, right. Last year they attempted to hide the majority of it from us. Right. But now that it's up on the website and it's public information, it's really bad.
Yeah.
Valley Unified School District. You can see for yourself. It's coming to your neighborhood.
And the thing is, it's not just your district. There's no doubt it's statewide and many other places across the nation. And we have to make sure that the parents understand that it's not just in the sexual education. Because let's face it. Third grade is the grade we're talking about here. 8 years old is how this has affected your daughter. And this wasn't in a sex ed class. This was in just a reading a book. Like, we want to read this book and tell the kids that their parents made a mistake. So, it's pushed outside the realms of sex ed. It's pushed into every single aspect of what we know as social emotional learning, which is where the schools are headed.
Yes.
And I'm of the mindset that we've talked, and I've spoke to you about this for years now. I've actually spoke at the Conejo Valley Unified School District School Board meetings. It falls on deaf ears. What we have to do now is replace the school board. Enough is enough. They need to go away. We need to put strong people on the school boards that have Judeo-Christian values, the values that our nation was founded upon. What is happening there in the Conejo Valley as far as those kind of efforts?
So right now we have 3 candidates, Joelle Mancuso, Karen Meyer, and Sophia DiDomenico. And, honestly, we need reasonable people on the school boards. I'm Jewish. I get it, but we need people that are parents that love their children, that want to be on these school boards. Right now, we're in a pivotal time because the elections are coming up in November. The school board, yes, they need to be replaced. 100%, they have to be replaced. Right. The current board votes 5-0 on every issue, and they have the social emotional portion of this. Whenever it comes up, everything that sounds great, they say, hey, we're going to double down on that. In their eyes, it's fantastic. So this book is an example. They now came out after this, and we thought it was wonderful. We're going to do this kindergarten through 12th now. I mean, this is a part of the curriculum, basically. So with the election coming up, it's a big fight because the other side is funded in a very big way. So as a community everywhere, we got to figure out who our candidates are. In your district, you got to jump out there, support them. You got to figure out ways to go walk and knock on doors, help them, and get the information out, because a lot of people don't know what's going on in their district, and they just vote for whether it's a Democrat or a Republican. But the people that are in the middle are going to be the ones that are going to steer this vote in the right direction. So we really need them. That's the biggest thing we could do in our districts.
Right. With very few exceptions, what we don't want is the incumbent. And I know there are some good school board members out there. I'm not saying there aren't, but with those are the exception, not the rule. For the most part, we need to get rid of the incumbents, and we need a fresh, clean slate, and we need them to be strong, conservatively minded, as you said, reasonable people. That's what I'm doing. I know that's what you're doing there in Conejo Valley, and I think it's what Californians need to do across the board. We're going to be pushing for that. Obviously, August 12th is the closing date for filing if they're going to run for school board in California. So we only have a little bit of time left before that closes, and we'll see what happens in November. But that is the push right now, and that's where we're going to be seeing a big push even in 2024, because we're going to have a lot of success in changing the school boards in November. Think about what's going to happen 2 years after that. They're afraid. California Teachers Association, you talk about the money that they have, that's where it comes from. More than $300 million a year in funding. And where do you think they put that? They put it right towards making this kind of legislation that puts these things in place, that usurps the authority of parents and indoctrinates these children. Because that indoctrination is so prevalent, what would you say that parents should do? Like, how do they advocate? Well, first of all, like we both agreed already, pull them out. That's the best thing, pull them out. But if you can't, for some reason, you just of the mindset you cannot, how does a parent advocate for their child if they have to remain in the government-ran school?
So they've made the teachers have been trained on how to hide things from public record. So, I mean, you got to get in there any opportunity you can. Ask about books that contain gender ideology or sexual orientation. Are the restrooms and lockers inclusive? So if a boy transitions to a girl, can he use the opposing bathroom? So these are things we need to ask. Are are children using pronouns, and are they telling the parents about that? You need to ask. We heard of a kid in our district that was, I think he was 16. He was on the spectrum, and his parents found out that the entire school year they were allowing everyone at school was calling him Charlotte. That was his preferred name. So we need to ask these questions. There'll be surveys that come home, and in our district, they didn't give us all the information on the survey. So, you know, the kids at school had to fill out the rest of it, and they're asking all sorts of things about suicide, about drugs. They're asking things. We get some of the questions they want to know about, but they're asking about pronouns. So it really takes for a parent to get involved and ask the teachers, and don't be afraid to be an investigator on your own and ask them the uncomfortable questions that could trip them up and give you the information. And then finally, I think it's very important that when your kids get home, my wife and I do this every day. She does it as soon as they get home. And as soon as I get home, I sit down with my kids. I ask them questions about their day. What's going on with their personal relationships at school, and what have they learned, and what is going on as a whole. So it's very important we keep that very tight relationship with our families, because in this case, it was my kid that came to us and said, hey, we got a problem.
Right. Yeah. And thank God that she noticed what she noticed, and had parents that were there to advocate for her. You know, we talk about this book that's introduced no parental notification, no parental involvement at all. We talk about the gender pronouns, the fact that things are being hidden from parents and hidden from public record. And this is being pushed. This transgender ideology is being pushed on our children, pushed on us. Why do you think there is such a push for this in America?
I mean, I could only speculate, but after diving into this, you got to understand this isn't something that I found my days studying on at all. It took this for me to really jump into it. And I found out that in 2007 there was one project in the United States that had to do with affirming kids' genders, and now there's over 300, and that's from Abigail Schreier.
Right.
So it's a money thing. They're pushing these pills. You know, when a kid goes on to these hormone blockers, from what I understand, they have to be on it for a lifetime. So, you know, medical insurance is paying for this, and it's a funding that constantly goes on. These drug companies will get this stuff. And that's just one side to this.
Right.
I personally don't think the majority, I think we are the majority. I think that they are the minority. And I don't think that everyone agrees with this. I think society as a whole, they spend a lot of money to push these things, saying that, hey, people like me are bad for standing up, not wanting my kid included in these types of matters. And they're blinding the rest of the nation out there, because there's plenty of people that agree with me on this. In fact, the majority in my community, especially, they don't want this being taught to their kids. No,
nobody in their right mind would. I mean, it's a ridiculous notion that you can be transgender or become an infinite number of genders. I look at this from a biblical perspective, of course, as a pastor. This is a total rejection of God. It's a rejection of how God has created us. We know that in the beginning, he created us male and female. He created us. We have rejected God when it comes to our borders. We've rejected him when it comes to sexuality. We've rejected him when it comes to marriage and life. And now we're rejecting him when it comes to the basic elements of being a human, that there are both male and female. We're rejecting God at every level. But you're seeing a big pushback right now. Steve Schneider, I want to thank you for all that you're doing there in the Conejo Valley. Those three candidates that are running to be a voice of reason in the community, I wish them the best of luck, and we're going to see what God does come November 8th. So, Steve, thank you for joining us today, and we'd love to have you back on in the future. God bless you.
You got it. Thank you so much.
All right. For everybody that's tuned in, thank you for joining us today. We will see you next time right here on Our Watch with Tim Thompson.